Hi, welcome to the Men's Forum, and tonight we have a special show that I really had to get done in a hurry because actually tonight it's a week before the election, November 5th, of course. I hope all of you will go out there and vote. But I recently got some information from some friends of mine, some organizations actually, part of also people from my organization, National Coalition of Free Men, that we have a really great opportunity to get a major candidate actually into office that can help fathers and children and to reform the crazy court system that we have here in New York, the state of New York. That candidate is Tom Golisano, and I heard about him. First, a friend of mine from the Fathers' Rights Association of New York told me that he spoke with Tom Golisano, and Mr. Golisano had said that he supports shared parenting in New York, something that all of us here at the Men's Forum and the National Coalition of Free Men, that's probably our biggest issue right now, because it does affect so many men and families, second families, children. So I looked into it after this friend of mine told me this, and coincidentally I got an email from Peter Alamano, who's an officer with National Coalition of Free Men, and also from David Friedman, who's his website is silentmajority.info, which later on I'll give you all these websites. But it turns out that Mr. Golisano does support shared parenting in New York, and he's running with the Independence Party. And the more I read about him, the more I like him. He's not beholden to any party. He's an independent businessman. I don't know how wealthy he is, but I assume that he could finance his candidacy pretty well. Seems like he's doing pretty well. He's embarrassing Pataki somewhat. There are some scandals coming out having to do with George Pataki. I don't know if they're true or not, but what I hear about George Pataki is I have a quote right here. This quote right here. Let me read it to you. It's a short one. I certainly don't believe that's the case. This is New York Governor George E. Pataki when asked by Ian Albany whether the award of sole custody to mothers over 90% of the time is gender biased. Well, that's just one quote that is sort of telling about his attitude about fathers' rights. But he has resisted any sort of change in family court, the family court system. There's a lot of corruption in there. The whole family court system in New York is geared towards maintaining the status quo, keeping judges where they are, and keeping the money flowing into the child support system. It's hurting millions of men and millions of children and millions of second families. It's not good at all for any of us. So we want to change. We want a sweeping change, and I haven't seen, this is the first time I've seen a major political candidate actually come out and admit that he's going to support family court reform, support for shared parenting. So what we have to do is, all of us men out there who know the problems that divorced fathers have, and second families, second wives, you all know that these terrible problems that the court is dealing us. We really have to support this candidate, because if we don't, he's going to see that no one does care, or maybe he was wrong. Maybe nobody does care about men, and men don't care about their own rights. We really have to support this guy. I believe at this present time, a week before the election, he's slightly behind Pataki, but he's closing fast is what I hear. So what I want to do is read some of the material that I got from some of my organization and another organization. Then I'll read the letter from Tom Golisano, pledging his support for shared parenting. And then I want to probably just quickly go over a few other candidates, to let local candidates, to let you know, to inform you about who you might want to vote for locally. That'll go quickly. Then I have a few quotes I want to read to sort of get you fired up to sort of put things in perspective as to like whether is this important or not. Should we vote for should we get out and vote? Will it really make a difference? Well, a lot of us are going through hell, and a lot of fathers and men will go through hell in the future if we don't change things now. Of course your vote counts. Look at what happened with George Bush and Al Gore down in Florida. It came down to hundreds of votes. Come on, this could happen here. All right, let's please push this guy over the edge. I also will name a few of the other platforms that I just recently did some research on, and I like a few of these some of these ideas that he has. Actually, the one that stood out in my mind, the first I heard about Tom Golisano was when I saw a television ad promising to actually use lottery money, which is supposed to go towards education in New York State, but isn't being used for that. He pledges to actually use that lottery money and use that for free college tuition to high school students that maintain a B average and above. Now that is a really great idea. That's something that we all need. This is a direct benefit to our state and to our families and our children. We need that. Come on, let's get rid of these special interests. Isn't that money better spent on our children's education than wherever the heck it's going? Lawyers, trial lawyers, the government, who knows? I like this guy's ideas. Well, let me start. And then actually, after all this boring stuff, I actually have like a 10-minute video that I got from the web talking about Tom Golisano in some emotional terms that I think you'll really enjoy. Okay, let me start out with this. This is from David Friedman, whose organization is at silentmajority.info. I love that website. He is really very articulate, and he's done a lot of research, and you'll find a lot of great information at silentmajority.info, political and otherwise, all about fathers' rights, shared parenting, which benefits everyone involved, especially children. But he wrote this letter to our organization, National Coalition of Free Men, distributed to a number of our members, and this is the cover letter that he included with the letter from Tom Golisano. Here it is. Dear friend, it is with great pleasure that I furnish you the attached letter in which Thomas Golisano, 2002 New York gubernatorial hopeful, has openly and directly addressed the issue of family court reform and child custody reform in our state. Unfortunately, politics as usual leave children, families, and our society as a whole behind, as special interests profit from the status quo. Mr. Golisano is free from the shackles of corporate and influence money. It's easy for him to say and do what is so obviously right. Regardless of who becomes governor, it is important to support the message that Mr. Golisano is sending. If he sees that people and organizations of conscience are behind him, he will see the value in promoting positive reforms that benefit children, families, and the state's budget. This process alone is invaluable in influencing the state as a whole to address this pressing crisis. As a concerned and compassionate individual, this is an appeal for you and your organization to send a letter of appreciation and support of his position at the least, and an unequivocal endorsement of his candidacy at the best. Each note, letter, and email counts. This is an issue that impacts millions of individuals, real people each day, many of which we know and love. Please take just 5 and 10 minutes to accommodate this request and to share this opportunity with colleagues, friends, and neighbors. You truly have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of millions. With sincere appreciation for your time and consideration, Dave Friedman. Okay. And as I said, David Friedman is at silentmajority.info. And here is the complete letter from Tom Golisano and his support of shared parenting. Dear gentlemen, I'm writing to reinforce my strong support for joint custody legislation in New York State. There is no greater responsibility than protecting the interests of our children. To that end, I believe it is Albany's responsibility to assure that minor children have frequent and continuing contact with both parents, and to encourage parents to share in the rights and responsibilities of rearing their children after they have separated or dissolved their marriage. This would not apply if contact with a parent would endanger the child. As governor, I would fight to see that legislation is passed with the provision that this act establishes a presumption that shared parenting is in the best interest of the child. I am aware that as it stands, in New York Family Court, sole custody is given in most cases, labeling one parent, visitor, and often terminating contact with one set of grandparents and extended family. Yet studies have shown that children raised in single-parent families are at greater risk for juvenile delinquency, teen pregnancy, poor grades, drugs, and dropping out of school. The current system harms people and costs us billions of dollars each year. As governor, I would work with family and children's advocacy groups to take a careful look at family court reform. I would also work to ensure children get the benefit of joint equal custody, and that the burden of proof that such shared parenting would be detrimental to the child shall be upon the parent requesting sole custody. My administration would look to your organization for your insight and experience for guidance in both the development and implementation of any related policy initiatives. I look forward to working with you as we move forward. Kindest personal regards, Tom Golisano. Very good. That is very encouraging to hear. Someone of this stature who actually has a chance of becoming governor to make such drastic changes in New York that's so needed. We all know this. Okay. Now this is a short comment from the Children's Rights Council, national and local, showing the support of shared parenting legislation. The Children's Rights Council, national and local, advocates reform of the family court system, child custody, and child protective services. Special interests are breaking up families and making billions. Court reform and keeping both parents in a child's life is good for New York. Strongly encouraging shared parenting, which may or may not entail joint legal custody, has been proven to reduce litigation in other jurisdictions because it eliminates the winner-takes-all aspect of current New York State child custody policy. This law was overwhelmingly passed and then vetoed by Hugh Carey in 1981 under pressure from special interests. Child support is physical, emotional, and financial. Current laws limiting one parent's responsibility to financial support have destroyed our children and families and have created big government child support programs that lose money because they have little real impact on the small amount of child support that is willfully paid. Myriad social pathologies are widely known through scientific research to be precipitated by father-parent loss. Fit parents are not criminals. Let them work and raise kids, not feed courts. And then it goes into the cost and savings, monetary savings to New York and the court and our system. The savings in human misery, what voters are impacted, the different supporters of shared parenting, dozens of state assembly members and senators, Karen DeCrow, family law attorney, who was the past president of NOW, dozens of attorneys, mental health professionals. I'll go into that later. Starting to run out of time, so that's really very interesting stuff. Here I got a sheet on some of Tom Golisano's platforms, a few of them that are very interesting. Let me just read them, and I'll comment if they're particularly interesting. The STAR Plus, the tax relief program, that's probably interesting to some people. Let me see. Right here. Golisano announces plan for medical use of marijuana. That is very, very interesting. I think that's a common sense approach. I believe many thousands of people could benefit from the medical use of marijuana. I haven't really given it much thought, but it sounds like a lot of common sense to me. Also, Tom Golisano calls for the repeal of the Rockefeller drug laws. That looks like it makes a lot of common sense also. Here is this thing that I mentioned before. Tom Golisano announces his Opportunity Scholarship Initiative. Well, the details are that there's a $1.7 billion per year that comes in from the lottery system that is not being used in education. He wants to use all of that $1.7 billion to fund free college tuition to any student who maintains a B average in high school. Excellent idea. I love it. Excellent. That caught my eye right away. So there's some of his platforms I like. Let's support him. Here I go. I'm going to start with local assembly. There's only a few I'm going to go into. Local assembly candidates that support shared parenting. I'm going to bring this up to the camera and try to point out these. Okay? Let's see. Let's see if I can get this on the screen. Let me see. District 4. Right there, Port of Suffolk, we support candidate Stephen Engelbright. You could see 4, District 4, Assembly District 4. Then we want to look at Assembly District 8. You could see that also. We support Thomas Baraga. He supports shared parenting also. Here also Assembly District 11, Port of Suffolk. We endorse Robert K. Sweeney in Assembly District 11, as you can see right there. Part of Nassau 13, Assembly District 13. You can see it there. We endorse David Siddickman. Okay, and also Assembly District 18, you can see right there. We endorse Earlene Hooper. And Assembly District 20, you can see right there. We endorse Harvey Weisenberg. Please vote for these candidates. Now I'm going to go get the Senate map. I believe there's only 2 people in the district that this show covers, so I'm going to show these people. Port of Suffolk, this is the Senate district, district number 4. You can see right there. Owen Johnson. We endorse him. He endorses shared parenting. helping children and fathers. District 3, that seems to be a big district. District 3, part of Suffolk. Caesar Trunzo, he endorses also shared parenting. Trunzo Johnson, District 3 and 4, the Senate District. We endorse both those candidates, as you can see in the map. Okay. Let me get to this video. Because we seem to be running out of time. So let me get to it.
Okay, my son was a victim of the court system. The court system that is not working. The courts try to have a court battle with your child custody issues, and it's not working. The cases are dragged out and are very unfair. People like my son have to come to court over and over, and nothing seems to be accomplished. In my case, my son took his own life because he was losing everything, losing the battle against the child custody issue. What we really need is shared parenting. Other states have it, but we don't. With shared parenting, there's a lot less abuse of forensic experts who are not qualified, court-appointed, who also get into the pot. They charge to have you visit your own children. The courts deplete your assets. It goes on. My son's story is very tragic. He wrote an open letter to the court talking about the injustice that he suffered, and was hoping that his letter would help with a change. Kentucky received many complaints and letters from our group, Americans for Legal Reform, and they were ignored. We never got an answer. We never got a reply. They don't want to change it because the politicians, the lawyers, and the judges can drag it out as long as they want to pad their own pockets. And that's what my son's letter said. You know, what right does an attorney have or the court have to take the assets of a couple for a couple of weeks' work? Our son went more than 20 times in less than a year, and it was so hard on him because he worked nights. He was a pharmacist and he worked nights. And so each time he came to court, he was sleep deprived. And so he was exhausted, and they wore him down each time he went. And nothing was ever accomplished. The lawyers and the judges would go into chambers and stay all day. And it's impossible that they were talking about his case the whole time. My grandchildren were being hurt because they didn't know what was going on at the time. They were 2 and 5 years old. A little boy and a little girl who loved their father and loved their mother too, but couldn't understand why Daddy couldn't come home, Daddy couldn't visit them at the home, and that they had to meet at Grandma's house, at our house. Well, you know, we loved them and we missed them. We, you know, played with them. We were part of their life. We hardly ever see them since my son's death. He's gone over a year and a half. We saw them 4 times. And we've got to be civil to our daughter-in-law because of them, you know, to sacrifice, to do anything just to keep them in our lives. But they moved out of state. Since my son's death, they're gone. They moved out of state. And we're heartsick. You know, we can't stop them. As grandparents, we have very few rights. We really have very few rights to keep them in our life. The first time it was less than an hour. We called to see our little granddaughter on her birthday, and they were still in Long Island at the time. And then we saw them on Easter, I believe, and you know, for less than an hour. The last time they were home, we saw them for a couple of hours. That was it. And they wanted to stay with us, but you know, my daughter-in-law said they had other plans and had to leave. And we're parents of 8 grandchildren. who also miss their cousins. The other children are all young. The oldest is only 9. And they miss their cousins. And I'm sure these grandchildren miss them also. It's so hard. You know, a lot of them lose their jobs being dragged to court over and over. My son, because of the situation of being deprived of sleep, lost his life. He was broken down on a daily basis, and the courts don't care.
My name is Linda Kushner. I'm a private lawyer, and I'm also a law guardian for 12 years, and I practice in the New York State courts, in family court and in matrimonial court. I'm here to talk about the misfortune that any of you will have if you have the misfortune of having to go into one of these courts at the present time. 43 states in our nation have changed to shared joint parenting. What this means is that there is a presumption that both parents have equal access to their children unless there are allegations of sexual or psychiatric abuse. At the present time, Tom Golisano is the only candidate who is willing to do enforced mediation so that there is no cost to you, the mother or the father or the grandparent who wants to have visitation of their child. He is the only one who is an independent candidate. He is the only one who is willing to move forward with our movement. It is very crucial that the people in our society who have been damaged by the present law vote. Please vote on election day for Tom Golisano, an independent, someone that you can count on. The appellate divisions in the state of New York have given grandparent visitation rights. However, they will not change the law. As the present law, there is no consistent law for joint parenting in the state of New York. We are lagging behind the times because of strong lobbying groups. I am asking the public to come forward and vote. If you care for the children, since the children are our future, vote for Tom Golisano. Thank you.
Let me just comment. This is the Men's Forum here again. This is Gary here. Very important, Tom Golisano also is supporting grandparents' rights, which have been lost in the shuffle. You see that woman. That video, by the way, is provided by David Friedman from silentmajority.info. Very important, grandparents' rights and also shared parenting. Very important. Linda Kushner, who you just saw in the video, you could view this video on silentmajority.info. She knows the system inside and out, and she's disgusted with New York's system, and that's why she so supports Golisano.
I would like to give you an example of a case that I recently had of a grandfather who wanted to have visitation with his child. Unfortunately, he had no money, and the father was a doctor, a very prominent doctor on the North Shore in Long Island, and this grandfather had seen his grandchild on a daily basis because he lived next door to his daughter. And the moment that the husband, who was a doctor, decided to stop the visitation, the grandfather never saw that grandchild again. 10 years later, after trying for 10 years to get visitation, finally a family court judge gave him visitation, and I'll never forget the phone call that I had to make in the lawyer's room to that grandfather to tell him the good news. He was in a nursing home, literally dying. The judge said he could have visitation the following Saturday. The grandfather was crying, hysterical, on the phone. I was crying, weeping, tears of joy that he would finally see his grandchild. Unfortunately, this grandfather died that very week. These are the type of things that are happening. The delays are catastrophic. This is a crisis in New York State. New York State needs a change immediately. Please vote for Tom Golisano.
Others' rights. Thank you. Here's the Men's Forum website, and here are some others.